Hispanic Connection.
Welcome to AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. We have a very informative show today. It's called Census 2020 already underway. Census 2020 already underway, and we have a special guest today. Before I introduce my guest, though, I want to remind you that all our shows are Facebook Live. You can go to AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection and find our page, Facebook page. If you haven't followed our page, do so, and please help us share these shows. We try to bring very relevant information, important and trustworthy information to you every Tuesday. 30 minutes in English, 30 minutes in Spanish. Quédese en sintonía. Soy David Parra. Le traemos un tema muy importante relacionado con el censo. Usaremos los primeros 30 minutos para hablar en inglés y seguimos a la media hora en español con el mismo tema sobre el censo. We have a special guest today again, and it is Nubia Enriquez. Nubia Enriquez is a media specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau. Nubia Enriquez, busy season. Thank you so very much for agreeing to be with us.
No, thank you so much for the space. This is an important time to talk about this.
And I understand that you are at full swing right now. The census is already underway. People have began to get what is it, like a letter on the mail? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a very exciting moment because starting on March 12th, people should have started receiving their first invitation letter to participate in the 2020 census. And that letter includes a code that people can use that is associated with their household to respond.
You know, yesterday I got on the internet on the census as I was preparing for this show. And I there's a little box that says something like take the survey or something along those lines. And I thought, yes, I'm going to be able to do it. But the first question is you need the code, right?
Well, you get the code in your first mailer, but you can there's an option on there that says I don't have it.
Oh.
So the only thing the code does is that it pre-populates your address for you. But if you don't have it, you can still go in there. So if you're so anxious, go and do it today because you just put in your address and you can start.
And I understand that you already took the census.
Yes,
you got your letter. When was it? Like this week? Or?
I got it actually the first day. I got it on March 12th.
Amazing.
So I was going to make a thing out of it because I have a new baby. She's almost 6 months old, and I wanted to make it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it a ceremony because this is her first census, and it's very important for us to count babies.
Is that a she or he?
It's a she, Isadora.
She's being counted then.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know we're going to go into more details as we move on the show, but coronavirus, is that going to have any issues with the census? I mean, do you foresee this matter of people, being recommended to stay home or what have you? Anything that is going to somehow undermine the efforts of the census?
Our goal continues to be the same, which is to count every single person living in the United States and its territories. Mm-hmm. We still have the same goal. We're going to do everything we can creatively to make sure that we reach people and let them know how easy it is to respond to the census. The reality is that it's never been easier to respond, whether that's online, on the phone, or by mail, without having contact with the census taker. So that's our main message because it's so important.
So getting something on the mail, your code is going to be done online, by phone, or on the mail. This is way before anybody can show up at people's homes.
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
This is amazing.
Yeah,
are you excited about this?
It's very exciting for me.
Amazing.
Since before I was working for the census, I realized how important this, decennial census would be, and I was trying to figure out ways that I would be involved. And coincidentally, this job came up, and now here we are, encouraging people, making sure that they know of all the different ways there are to respond to the census, and really the importance. This really helps drive a lot of resources to our communities, and we have to do our civic duty.
Let's talk about that, because before I'm going to ask you to walk us through the process, which we briefly mentioned already. I would like to ask you to kind of take us through some facts about the census. Why do we do the census? What's the importance of it? How often, etc.?
Yeah, so the decennial census happens every 10 years. And it's very important to differentiate because actually there are different surveys that are out there that the U.S. Census Bureau puts out. But every 10 years, we have the responsibility to count every single person in the United States once, only once, and in the right place. And that's very important. So again, that happens every 10 years, and that literally helps shape our future for the next decade. And we don't have a way to change that information until the next 10 years.
Let me interrupt you there because I think you brought up a good point because even a colleague of mine was sharing with us how he received some survey and to some, we kind of thought, what is this? Is this the census already? So would you say that again? Because so people may have received an invitation to participate before these dates, sooner. And it was not really the census, the 10-year census, but it was like a survey. Did I hear that right?
Yes. So there are different surveys put out by the U.S. Census Bureau at all times. So the Census Bureau is working, 24/7, all year, every year.
Okay, and that is very important
it's
information,
very important.
I think.
Yeah, because we can see how, it could have created some confusion in people that were receiving this. Maybe they thought it was some sort of scam, but the reality is that it's not. If you received official communication from the Census Bureau to complete a survey, then please go ahead and do so. That is part of the different surveys that are put out there again by the U.S. Census Bureau throughout the year because there's more information that we need from people ongoing.
Thank you. If you just join us, this is AARP Arizona Hispanic Connection. The topic today is Census 2020 already underway, and Nubia Enriquez is our special guest. So Nubia, so you were saying that this is done every 10 years. So what is the importance? Why does the government put it in the Constitution to count people? Why is so important?
Oh, so many reasons. So one of them is that billions of dollars that are in federal funding is determined how they're going to be distributed to states and local communities, right?
So this is money that the Federal Reserve collects in taxes, I would imagine. Is money that they have, and then they basically allocated it to the states for different services. So they want to know how much money to send to the states pretty much.
Yes, and that is based on census population counts that are done every 10 years. So that is why it's so important for us to get counted in the decennial census, because it's the statistical information that is put out by the census every 10 years that determines how much money communities get.
So if we get it wrong, we're stuck for 10 years, basically.
For 10 years, exactly.
So if we're getting less money because we didn't allow ourselves to be counted, we're going to have to live with that for 10 years?
For 10 years. And that is for services like schools, like hospitals, roads, infrastructure. So it's basically every public service that you have taken advantage of is probably informed by census information.
So if I go to the park, our kids go to school, roads, all that has somehow been financed by these dollars that came to our state from the federal government based on the count that they did 10 years ago.
In 2010, that is correct.
That is amazing. So that was 10 years ago that we did the census, and now so the big difference again from last 10 years ago, I should say, is the way that it's going to be conducted. Now, there is another element besides the money allocation. There is the representation, right?
Yes.
Can you touch on that element as well?
Yes. So also, we have to deliver this information so that it is determined how many seats each state gets in the House of Representatives. So that is, again, another reason why it's so important. We want to make sure that we get the count right for our communities, so that we get the representation we deserve in Congress, right? So that is, again, one of the other very important reasons for us to make sure we're counted.
So senators doesn't change. We know we get 2 senators per state, 50 states, 100 senators. But representatives, that is determined by the count of the census, literally.
Yes.
So it's not that the state decides to add another district. Is based on the census.
Yep, it's based on census counts, how many seats each state gets.
So typically, then we can say that we will not add any seats for 10 years. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So now I have heard that in Arizona we've already moved over 7 million people in the state. I think Governor Doug Ducey said that already. I mean, I'm quoting him literally that we already have more than 7 million people. So some people are saying that we potentially could get at least 1, if not 2 representatives, but it is important that everybody is counted. If not, we might not get it.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you're one of the most important reasons.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Wow, this is very important. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember I was born in Mexico, came to the United States when I was 12 years old, and I was a little kid. And I remember even, the Mexican representatives of the government work house to house, taking account. And I vividly I have that image. So now I'm a grown-up, man, and I'm participating now with more or fully understanding what that is for. And it is very, very, I mean, once you understand the importance of it, it seems like you almost look forward to it. And I am looking forward to it. I would have wished that I had received my letter to have done it before I came to this show. But you did it at least, and you know what it is. So it's a simple process.
It's a very simple process. Some people have said that it takes them longer to put in their code than it does to actually answer the census. But I do have to remind people that really the amount of time it takes depends on how many people are in your household. So if you have, 2 people living in your household, it's obviously going to take you way less than if you have, 4, 5, 6 people living in your household.
So the only variations, if you will be dependent on how many people are in the household.
Yes.
And let me talk about the household. But before we do, we have Alex Juarez join our Facebook page, and he made a comment. He says, "My family and I have been counted now. The online process was easy. It took less than 10 minutes."
We love to hear that. That is music to our ears. Thank you so much. And one thing that we want to encourage people is to help us spread the word right now. The reality is that some of our operations are going to have to change. We're going to have to take our on the ground work probably out for some time at least because of what's happening. So we're looking to our partners, media partners such as yourself, people out there who are responding to the census already, take a selfie, post it online that you already took the census, that it's easy, that it's safe, that it's important. Help us spread that word because it is so important really for us to get the count right. It'll shape our future for the next 10 years.
We will do that. We will do it. So if you're out there, you're listening to the show, again, take a selfie as you're completing it. Not don't reveal any of your information, of course.
That's
but
important.
Right. Just post a picture stating that you did it and how you liked it, if it was simple, easy. I mean, I honestly, from the first time that I heard that it was going to be online, I was very, very excited. I can't wait till one day we vote online,
Oh, yeah.
You think
That's
we're gonna
a different conversation.
I hope so. But anyhow, Nubia, to help us understand, so I'm completing the form. There will be, I have to believe, several million families, perhaps, that is pretty straightforward. The husband, the wife, 2 children, 3 children. But there will be also instances, I have to believe, where there's maybe 2 families living in one home. So how is that going to play out? So somebody of the family is going to have to do it only once, and then include everyone. So who typically will be responsible for completing the form in this kind of scenario?
I guess a household would determine that. Whoever wants to respond.
So it doesn't really matter who does it.
No.
But what's important from what I'm understanding is that everyone is counted?
Absolutely. So, and that's a very good point that you bring out, because it's important for people to know that the invitation to respond to the census will not be addressed to a specific person in the household. It will say current resident.
So the code is linked to the house?
To the house, not to the person living in the house.
Point,
yes. So because it's linked to the home, again, it's very important. You can decide for it to be, the mother, the father, whoever you want to respond that first. It really doesn't make that much of a difference.
Okay.
Unless you want your household to be counted, for example, for tribal communities. If you want your household to count towards your tribe, it's very important for the person of that tribe to be the first person to put themselves. So person number 1.
Okay, the $1 million question. I am sure that, especially here in our state, we have I would say a pretty large undocumented population. And most likely there will be concern, should I do it? Should I be included? First of all, tell us whether they should be included. And second, is their concern? How can you address their concern,
Yeah.
basically?
So it's important that everybody counts. We get that question all the time. Should a person that's undocumented count in the census? And the answer is yes. Every single person, and I can't stress it enough, should be part of the census, should be counted in the census. So that's children. That's people who maybe just got here and they haven't lived here for a long time, but they're planning to live here and they're going to live here on April 1st. People who are undocumented, every single person counts. And it's very important for people to know that everybody's responses are safe. We don't release personal information of anybody.
Right.
Our job is to put out statistical information, so no personal information will be put out until after 72 years. We take an oath to protect everybody's information, and we could face jail time and fines of up to $250,000 if
Did
we
you say
release people's
72
information.
years?
Yes.
Okay, so the government basically is committing, as baby, you said, taking an oath.
Every census worker, every
Census
person
worker.
works
So-
for the census.
So no personal information will be shared for at least 72 years. And so there shouldn't be necessarily a concern by anybody.
No, because the information, again, like I said, that we put out is in statistical form, excuse me, and we don't share the information with any other government entity. So that is information that is taken by the census, and we put it out in statistical form.
And there was a lot of controversy about the citizenship question. And we know for a fact that question will not be in the census.
The question is not in the census. So basically, the information that people have to answer is information about the people that live there in terms of age. You also have to answer sex, ethnicity, and race.
That's it.
Basically the information that people have to answer. And then also if the home is owned or rented.
Okay. Okay. Let me see if I can think of other questions. So nothing about citizenship. They nothing about that. And obviously, I suppose that the concept here is that everyone needs to be counted only once.
Yes.
So if somebody already got counted and then for whatever reason they moved and find themselves at a different house, and when they move to that house for whatever reason, they are doing the census on that new house, that person should not be counted again, correct?
Well, it will not. And we have mechanisms in place to mitigate the situation of counting duplicates.
So duplicates
Yes.
based on name, it's going to
Yes.
be easy to catch and to correct.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important for people to provide the names of the people living in the household because of situations like that.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
there's really no wrong, in even if somebody's counted twice, you'll fix that. You'll be able to fix that.
Yes.
I don't know. And, we do at ARP, we run a campaign. We have a strong effort, a nationwide effort on against fraud. And we're always concerned, we always have our ears and eyes open to the issue of fraud. Anything of fraud that you have heard related to the census, is this, or especially when people begin to visit homes, is that going to be a concern of the census, that people are identified and then that we know how to identify those folks that are going to be knocking at our doors?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So right now, the main effort that we're doing is to encourage people to answer online on the phone or by returning their phone on the mail, precisely because that's one of the ways in which people can avoid any situation of fraud.
Got it.
So the more people that self-respond, the less you will get visited by a census taker. That's number one. But also, we have different ways to identify people that are going to be knocking on doors. So there are very specific, there's a very specific badge that people will be wearing when they're going to be, knocking on the door of a person to answer the census. They'll be carrying a bag with the official census logo. They'll be reading a statement to the person. So all of those things are key for people to know that the person is actually a legitimate census worker that's knocking on their door. The other thing is that we have a phone number online that we can share, if people request it, where people are, if they feel like the person that knocked on their door is not necessarily a census worker, a legitimate census worker, they can call that line and actually confirm that person with that name and badge is a census worker indeed. So there's different ways that we are helping people, address those fears of fraud.
On the in-person survey, let's say that somebody visits my home and I'm the only one there. and I just reveal or give the names of everybody, those persons don't have to be there at that time, right? I'll just give the names of the people who live in my home, correct?
Yeah, they don't have to be there.
Got
It's
it.
just like the online and on the phone. The
Got it.
person who's responding is giving the information for the other people, and it doesn't matter really where they are.
How many notices is the census going to send to homes if the person puts it off and they don't respond right away?
Yeah. So people are receiving 2 initial letters, and then they're receiving a postcard, and then by the 4th mailer, people will receive the census questionnaire.
So again, 1 letter,
2 letters.
2 letters, obviously in a span of what, a week or 2, perhaps.
So people should have started receiving them as of March 12th, and those initial letters will happen until the 20th of March.
And then if they don't get an answer, then the second one will come. And if they don't get an answer, the third will come. And then after the third, then people in person are going to be
then people will receive the actual census form. So those initial invitations are for people to participate online and on the phone.
Okay.
If they
The third
choose
would
not to
be
do it,
by mail,
then
basically.
they'll receive the
Got
form
it.
that they can actually fill
See?
out and return.
I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
So the first
it's
2
important.
basically encouraging people to do it by phone or online.
Yes, the first 3.
The first 3.
The 4th mailer will be the form.
So the 4th will be the actual census form.
Yes.
So even by the 4th, they're still not going to see a person. But if they don't respond to the 4th one, then they'll see a person.
Yes, that is
Got
correct.
it. Well, before we give information or a phone number of people to how to get in touch with you or with the Census Bureau, jobs, are they still hiring? Anything that you want to share with the public about jobs?
Yeah, so it's not too late to apply if you want to be one of those census workers. You know, we always say this is not a job, it's a mission. So if you want to help us out with that mission, you can still apply on 2020census.gov/jobs. And, you know, these are great jobs. They're very flexible. They're well paying. So you still have time. Our actual hiring started in early March. We started recruiting a really long time ago because we want to make sure we have, you know, the right amount of people doing this work. So it's still time. If you still want to, if you're considering getting a job with the census, you still can.
If somebody submitted an application and it's taking long for the census to respond, do they need to worry? Are they going to get a notice or a phone call, what have you,
Yes.
either way?
Thank you for asking. They probably won't get a phone call either way, but it's important for people to be on the lookout for calls that are unidentified. When you receive a call from the Census Bureau, it won't actually say that it's a call from the U.S. Census Bureau, so it might come up as a spam call. So we're encouraging people that if they applied for a census job to answer those spam calls because we don't leave messages. So if you applied and if you're waiting to hear from us and if you haven't heard yet, please answer those spam calls.
So that's going to be important. So they do get, again, a phone call then.
Yes.
Not you said not either way.
Not either way. So if
only-
they're going to get hired, if they're going to do an interview, they will receive
So
a
if
phone
somebody
call.
doesn't hear back, that could be a sign that they were not selected, they were not a good fit for the positions available. Could we say that?
Correct.
Perfect. Anything else that you would like to convey to the public? I mean, this is I would even say historic in the sense of, I don't think historic, but a special time.
Yes.
It only happens 10 years. We have an opportunity to be counted. And, you know, we need to be worried about all the states participating, but being a little selfish, we have to be worried that Arizona gets counted, because if California gets counted, if New Mexico gets counted, they'll get the money. If we don't get counted, we'll get less money. So the ones that are going to be paying the price for not getting counted, it's going to be on a state-by-state basis. So it's very important that Arizona gets counted. Any final words to our Arizonans in terms of participating?
So as a proud Arizonan, I just call everybody to please, when you receive your invitation, and even before, if like David, you are so anxious to fill out your census form without the letter of invitation coming to you, you can still do it without that code. You can just put in your address and you can get started on it. So yeah, please make sure that we get the resources that we're entitled to as a state by making sure that you are counted, that the babies in your household are counted, that the people who might not be living in your home that are only living in your home temporary but will be living in your home on April 1st, they should be counted in your home if they don't have any other place to
It's
live.
better that they are counted twice than not be counted at all.
Absolutely.
You'll fix those problems.
Yes.
Thank you, Nubia Enriquez with the U.S. Census Bureau. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you. Stay tuned for the Spanish program. We'll be right back. Have a great day.
Diálogo comunitario.